So is Max Holloway gonna go ahead and fight Ilia Topuria next? Is he in good standings for having that title shot? In my honest opinion, no. Max Holloway had a good win this weekend. He beat Dustin Poirier, but he beat Dustin Poirier, a guy that was already mentally retired. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. And above that, we already saw that fight. We saw Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria, and we already know how that fight ended. A lot of people are saying that Max Holloway at 155 is just a completely different beast. He's a different monster. We could go ahead and run with that narrative, but I just personally would like to see Max Holloway fight another contender before we see him fight Ilia Topuria next. I think that a name like Justin Gaethje or maybe Charles Oliveira can make things interesting, but I just don't see right now why we should give or why the UFC should actually consider Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria. Other than that, other than the fact that they could just make a lot of money from having that fight at 155. I mean, let's just be honest. Beating Dustin Poirier, a 36-year-old that was already mentally checked out, I think, in my opinion, isn't that too great of a win. I think I would like to see Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. I mean, let's just be honest. There's two guys that are still trying to prove that they still got a lot in the tank. We saw Charles Oliveira get knocked out by Ilia Topuria too, and I think that this would be a very, very good BMF versus Legacy fight because we all know how that last fight ended with between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. I think that if Max Holloway does beat Charles Oliveira, he does build a stronger case for fighting for the title. And if Charles Oliveira does beat, Max Holloway, it clears up the title picture a lot more. And to say that that's not the case, yeah, I mean, we're just lying to ourselves. So I personally would like to see Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira, if not Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. Now, my reasoning for that fight is because Justin Gaethje apparently he thinks that he is one of the top contenders in the lightweight division. I think that there should be some sort of pushback against that, and Max Holloway is that pushback. If Justin Gaethje actually thinks that he is one of the top contenders at lightweight, he should definitely face off against Max Holloway one more time, and whoever wins that fight should fight for Ilia Topuria next. Case in point, Justin Gaethje is threatening the UFC. He's literally threatening everybody that if he doesn't get a title shot in his next fight, he's gonna retire. But if he does have a title eliminator against Max Holloway, it would create much more sense for both guys to fight Ilia Topuria next. And if Justin Gaethje does beat Max Holloway, it's the same conversation that we're having about Charles Oliveira. It's legacy versus BMF. For both guys, if they both win, it's a good freaking argument as to why they should be next up to fight for the title. Also, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that Arman Tsarukyan might be a dark horse as well. Arman Tsarukyan is a guy that's not in good standings right now with the UFC because obviously they gave him the opportunity to fight Islam Makhachev whenever Islam Makhachev was the champion at 155 and he freaking blew it. So I think that Arman Tsarukyan might even actually call out Max Holloway for a title eliminator now that I'm thinking about it and processing everything for the landscape of 155. That could be a potentially good matchup as well. I just feel like right now, the UFC 155, the rankings are just all over the place. There's no real clear number one contender other than Arman Tsarukyan. But like I said, Arman Tsarukyan right now is not in good standings with the UFC. Dana White has said it himself that he is like nowhere near close fighting for the title because he freaking blew it. He blew his opportunity. So I think that would be a good matchup as well. Whoever wins that matchup deserves to fight Ilia Topuria. Now that I'm actually thinking about it and processing it and looking at the landscape for 155, Arman Tsarukyan might actually be a real legitimate freaking contender or a real legitimate opponent for Max Holloway. I mean, at the end of the day, though, it kind of does seem like some people that are saying that Max Holloway absolutely deserves to fight for the title next just don't get the fact that it kind of feels like Max Holloway is skipping a step, right? Because he came to 155. Yes, he has a good win over Dustin Poirier, but it's a 36-year-old Dustin Poirier who, like I said, he's mentally checked out. He had already mentally checked out. He was going into retirement. A guy that's going into retirement and already has that mentality that, oh, bro, this is my last one. After this fight, I'm done. I just don't really see why that win is so heavy and why people are giving Max Holloway so many or so much praise for that win. You know, like I said, Dustin Poirier was already mentally checked out. He was already mentally retired. I just don't see why people are giving Max Holloway that win, with such grand praise. Yeah, he beat Dustin Poirier, a guy that had beaten him twice before, but it was a version of Dustin Poirier that, in my opinion, was nowhere near close to his prime. I mean, he's 36 years old, literally in retirement mentality. It just doesn't make any sense as to why people are saying that that's reason enough for Max Holloway to get a title fight over someone that arguably, is probably even more dangerous now at 155. I mean, at the end of the day, let's just be honest, it's the UFC, so business is business, and they're gonna try to get it as booming as possible. So they might actually put Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. In my opinion, it does feel like Max Holloway is skipping a step, as well as everybody out there that wants to pretty much agree that Ilia Topuria is next for Max Holloway. I really don't see it, but I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, I definitely would like to see Max Holloway fight one more time, just so he could become undeniable. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel. As always, it's a pleasure. Peace out and have a good one.